So when I looked at the definition of culture, it basically states that there is language, arts, beliefs, rules that members of a community have that make their societal environment more meaningful. So when you look at the definition, when I see the words beliefs and rules, and when you look at culture in personal observation, culture has a lot to do with people pleasing. It has to do with whatever your like grandparents or parents feel comfortable with is kind of how a lot of us make decisions. But with culture, it allows for that yes and no to be quite hard to do. And so I just wanted to talk about that one element of culture that could be toxic, which is the people pleasing element. And there's other things, for example, that culture resides in a nafs basis. It only focuses on our nafs. It doesn't further society in the way that Islam does. Islam has allowed for a very concrete way to spread, and it is what's it called? It's to finish it off. Islam operates from an objective source that is not emotional or nafs base like culture does. And so when you're looking at spreading Islam, an average person can more likely accept obviously Islam due to the reason that it is very simple in nature, that it is logically rationalized, and it furthers society. Basically, it can carry on through books, through obviously an objective source like the Quran, and so you have a trajectory that can last forever, whereas culture, language, art, faith, understanding the emotional and at times manipulative part of culture, that's trying to manipulate people ultimately at times. But I'm talking about toxicity of culture. I'm not talking about all of it. So I just wanted to put that out there. I wanted to talk about kind of culture in the context of the Quraysh when the Prophet ﷺ and when the Quran came. So basically they have a culture. Obviously when the Quran was revealed, there was a particular way of life, a culture, and so what Islam did was either eradicate some of the cultural practices that were harmful to society, and then obviously some were left. Some of the cultural practices that were left would be the clothing would have to be tweaked, but some essence of the clothing would still be there. The way that they ate, obviously some was left, but things that weren't left were like burying your children alive, your daughters alive. Some other cultural practices that were harmful to the society were shut down, obviously were closed, and Islam had come from its roots and built society, built a justice system, and things like that. So when you take a look at culture, you're not eradicating all of culture. You're leaving what is toxic. You're basically abandoning what is harmful to society. You are obviously abandoning things that go against La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. You're going against things that no longer comply with all of what Islam does, right? So we're really careful when people try to like tie in culture with the religion and like weave it in, because it's totally not like that. So I wanted to talk about also some points when it comes to culture. Another point when we talk about the start of culture and all of that, we have to look at culture as being regional. So for example, like let's take Pakistan. When you're looking at like the temperature, it's just regional. So the way that people wear shamar kameez, like Afghans, India, Bangladesh, we wear like the shamar kameez, which is like that, like a long top and like those pants. I don't know how to describe it, but it's cotton. Basically, that is used because of where they live. Okay, so basically, it's thinner material. The way that it's constructed, it's good for that type of weather. Also, the fabric that they have access to, so it's easily made, and it's for that particular weather. So we have to look at culture being in a context, in a way of life that's permissible. And when we're looking at, when you're tying, like, let's say clothing, we don't tie it to piety. It's really, really a cautious thing that we have to realize that clothing does not equal piety. Just because those come from a very pious place, like near the, like Mecca, Medina, that doesn't mean that if we wear it in the West that we're more pious than somebody else, right? The overarching thing that controls piety would be modesty, right? We're looking at modesty as a whole. We're not looking at pieces of clothing to dictate whether somebody is more pious, right? I wanted to talk about people who were born in the Muslim faith because I wasn't. I converted about 8 years ago, alhamdulillah, and I know many people who have been born in Islam, and I really wanted to get more insight on this topic and talk about your personal experiences with your families on how Islam was passed down, if it was strong, if it was weak. How did you come to a firm understanding about Islam? Somewhere along the generations of our family, there was a strong Muslim, and eventually, as generations came closer and closer, it weakened. Somewhere along the line of history, our Islamic understanding had weakened. So that's why our parents or our grandparents don't have pure understanding of Islam or concrete foundation, because somewhere along the line the baton of Islam was not passed, and there's a weakening, right? And we have to really dissect about who was the strong Muslim, like envisioning that person who converted to Islam, because obviously Islam, there had to be converts in, for example, like Indo-Pak area. When we're looking at that in the Indus Valley area, South Asia, when we're noticing like Muslims in that area, a strong Muslim had to come to that area and then build their homes and create a foundation for Islam, right? So how did it, like visualizing that strength and how it weakened, it's really sad, and it really puts things in perspective of now, like, are we going to pass the baton in a firm manner to our children, and are they going to pass it on and on? So it's this like idea of looking at our history and learning how we can be better. And I think like when we think about a weakening in a system, we often think about what were their priorities, because obviously for that strong Muslim to pass it on, they must have viewed it as like the top priority, and when they passed it on, their children must have not seen it as a big priority, maybe because they needed to make the economy changed, maybe their environment changed. So we have to look at those factors. And then another factor could be that maybe they got more spoiled, maybe they got more relaxed, maybe they saw luxury for the first time. Like, what happens because there's this level of weakness that occurs? When I look back at like the history and how we are today, two things that come to mind. Number one is never give up with seeking knowledge. Never give up on that path to know more knowledge, to seek it in the right manner. It's really, really important to never give up on that, because shaitan will get you when you have zero knowledge about a certain topic. It's really important to just obtain knowledge, because it really helps with the whispers, but it really, really helps to pass the baton to the next generation, because often the millennials from age 24 to 42, we were never able to ask why to our parents, because they would give us an answer that was very vague, or they would say, no, don't ask me this, or this and that. Asking why was a very taboo thing, and it didn't go anywhere. Whereas now, when our children ask us, we're able to utilize proper sources and give them an answer and humble ourselves in the right manner to obtain an answer for them. So never let your child, like, keep letting your child ask why in the right manner. Their curiosity, just nurture it in the best way, but never back down from a why of your child. Always be on the lookout to obtain knowledge for yourself and to help them in their journey of knowledge about Islam. And number two, what I've reflected on is using our tongue to speak up, because what we've noticed is we just follow our forefathers and look where we end up, weak. We have to speak up with our, like, try to, prevent actions that are haram or like iffy or cultural practices we have to utilize our bodies, our actions, our tongue, like everything in our power to do what's to remove, negate any bad thing that doesn't belong to Islam, right? So we need to, like, if we're living with our grandparent, like your parents, and you're raising, like, you have a multi-generational home, there's gonna be a lot of friction, and that's okay to have friction, because you're preserving the new generation while trying to let the old generation have its place, and not trying to mingle all of it together, because each generation is so unique within its way. So I just really think that we're the generation that we can speak up, because if we're just obeying what our parents did and being too kind to them, being too soft to them, we're just completely weakening the potential of the next generation as well. It kind of like relates to my previous video, this whole topic about passing the baton. One of the things that I was talking about, the main topic, was about sacrifice. And when you're viewing a strong Muslim family, they have sacrificed a lot, meaning they have sacrificed wealth, sacrificed people, pleasing people, have sacrificed status, health. There was something that they sacrificed in order to prioritize or put Islam in its priority, because every generation, religion will not, like, it's hard to hold on to religion, okay? So the strongest point in our family history of being Muslim, they had to sacrifice. And I think that's a connection that we can bring to now, is that we have to sacrifice. Even though we have access to buying things for our children, I've talked about this many times, okay? I strongly believe that spoiling our children too much is not going to make them, like, they may be okay, like, this is better than Islam, you know? Like, we have to be very wary in all of our actions. And so that's what I'm saying, like, what is our sacrifices that we're doing to bring the value of Islam forward, because it's not going to come from thin air. Like, yeah, there's a pattern. We take patterns that we think happened of strong Muslims in the past. Islamic history is a good place to start, not just trying to guess how our family got here, how Islam got in our family. Like, that's one aspect to kind of take a guess, but we have those evident pieces throughout history as well. So that is my rant. Inshallah, Allah makes us have a strong, pious, makes us amongst the pious groups of friendships, and may Allah grant a strong ummah. Like, obviously our ummah is strong because we have the Prophet, we're the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. So Ameen to all that. We got this, inshallah. Allah's mercy.